Hey everybody, and welcome to another amazing episode of Finding Peaks. Yours truly, founder and CEO, Chris Burns. So grateful to have amazing professionals, but even better humans with us today. Dane Ensley with Reconstruction Unlimited, and then we have Brandon McArdle as well with Reconstruction Unlimited, Operations Director.
Yes, sir.
Got that, man. Something that really fascinated and intrigued me about what you guys do is more specifically how you do it and why you do it. You can go on your website, and it's a very simple website. I love it because it's simple like ours. And it really speaks to the viewer. And I think what it says to the viewer is, we are what you've been looking for this entire time. Each and every family system that I have the opportunity to work with believes or conceptualizes a process of treatment and care structure like you all create in a very granular way for the clients that come into your services. And so I want to chat with you guys a little bit about how you're disrupting the industry. And I think a lot of that is probably within your why and why you got started. I know we were chatting a little bit before the show and some things that you've seen in the industry that was missing. And just want to chat a little bit about it because I'm a big fan of introducing the viewers to people that can potentially walk their loved ones in to healing.
Sure.
Yeah, we run a mental health coaching agency. We manage client care. So we bring clients in and we design what we call therapeutic ecosystems for them. And that means we build out systems to help them recover from whatever they're struggling with. I was thinking about the idea of disruption, and I was thinking, we didn't really start this to disrupt. We started our organization because we were lacking some things as professionals. We weren't getting the support that we needed to make an impact in people's lives. And I think part of our why is that impact. Like, how much impact can we make? How much impact can we generate? How much can we put into this to create as much radical change as possible? We came up, and Brandon can speak for himself, but I know I also speak for us when I say we were indoctrinated into helping people in a very particular way, and I think that way was suboptimal. And we weren't given the support and strategy and the leadership abilities that I think our organization now gives to the people that work for us. I'm very adamant about helping clients, obviously. I built a business, a global brand to help clients. I am more passionate about helping our coaches and the people that work for us. Like, that's really my why, is I want to foster and develop unbelievable talent. And I want to give these people that work for our organization the most opportunity possible and to build leaders out of them in the space.
Yeah, and I think I can I of course resoundingly agree with that. And I think that for us, having kind of been on the ground, so to speak, for years, and in these, to your point of walking folks' loved ones to places of healing and the family systems as a whole, I think that we were put in environments where more could have been done, and we had been exposed to, and I think this also, again, not to speak for you, but I think for us, we had experienced categorical revolutionary change in our lives, in our personal lives, based on our own therapeutic recovery-based experiences. And when we went to work, so to speak, we didn't necessarily see that was offered. And to your point about focusing on our work with our teams, we're a very team-focused organization, because any client or family system or business system that is plugged in with that, and it starts at the top with Dane, the reverberating effects and the work that we do will speak through our people, right? And so there were many years in which there was no one to call. There was no additional support for us. There was no, when our phone rang, and still to this day, when our phone rings, it can be the worst day of a person's life, right? Yep. So we're in these very acute, very turbulent, very real scenarios in which the tiniest decision or action revolutionize, radically change a person's trajectory. And I know that very, real, I'm sure everyone sitting here knows from your own recovery, these tiny inextricable events, or that person seeing you at a time when you felt that the world, that was an impossibility, right? I think that we're constantly playing to those moments, and those moments for us are vital. And what I know to be true from doing this work for 13 or 14 years, and what Dane knows to be true, is that if our coaches and our staff and our case managers and interventionists and any of the treatment professionals, clinicians that we work with, if they're not in a place to seize that opportunity with these clients and these family systems, we're not doing our job, right? And we're missing a lot. And that's what I'd say.
That's a big deal. That just the emphasis on the team.
Sure.
Right? The health and wellness of the team. This is actually something that started speaking to me. I know we get a little off task here. But the health and wellness to the team and the way that permeates into client culture. I want to see someone sitting in front of me who's walked that journey.
Sure.
Right? And that's done it in a real intentional way and can show me spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically. Right? So I think that's really, really cool. I just love the name Recovery Reconstructed. Right? Like, we're reconstructing something we thought was good, but we're actually learning has some tremendous gaps in it. Something that really speaks to me about what you guys do in particular, and something that I believe to be true about the recovery process, and I don't know a lot to be true, but one thing I always tell clients is, I know one thing to be absolutely paramount, is we cannot do this alone.
Yes.
And there's something that you guys coin on your website, a phrase. What is that phrase?
We can do together what we cannot do alone.
Yeah. That's powerful. So the way through is actually together. And I used to think, when I started going to treatment 15 years ago, I'd get ushered off to treatment. My family would tell me a story like, this is a you, not a we.
Sure.
Right? How do you guys combat that on your side of things? How do you integrate the family system in addition to the individual and work with the family and the client?
It's funny that you ask that, because we're in the process of deploying what we're calling family coaches. And we have one family coach that we've been working with for a time now that does incredibly good work. What we noticed was we would spend so much time managing and coaching and intervening with clients and their family to a degree, but then the family would become sort of secondary, and they don't know that they ever got lost in the shuffle, but there was less emphasis placed on the family. And as you know, Chris, and as your organization knows, and as you guys champion, the family system has to be addressed. And it's not just through like a 1 week intensive family thing, right? The apparatus has to be built out, and it has to be elongated, and it has to be thorough. And so we're now, as much as we can, pairing families with their own coach. And that coach can work hourly with a family, week after week. That coach can work daily with a family in person for weeks at a time, months at a time even. It just depends on what we assess needing to be done. But I think it's an interesting place to be, because I don't know that anyone else is doing it, which is cool to be able to say. I think. I don't have proof of that, but I think that it's pretty unique.
Yeah, and I think when we're talking about particular family systems, obviously not every family is this way, but there are many families that we work with that are approaching us from a place of affluence, right? Sure. And you use the expression, which I love, of going the distance, right? And whether reconstruction is there or not, that family system is gonna go the distance, right? This client will be a part of this family system, especially if we're talking about wealth and inheritances and trust funds and family offices and businesses, et cetera, right? And we both know that, and as do you, but on the ground in that space, intervening in that system and seeing the way that it operates, it's so vitally important for us to address that and start to create a focus for sustainability for that future system, right? And there have been many times in which, look, does every family system fully make the evolution to everything and whatever? No, but obviously that may not be the case in every circumstance, but we are constantly pushing, and that's what I love about Reconstruction, what I love about our team is we never take our kind of foot off the pedal in terms of pushing for that categorical evolution, right? Where we enlightenment, so to speak, where we're kind of transcending our shortcomings and our weaknesses, old patterns, these antiquated old and traumas and inherited generational trauma, et cetera, and pushing for that growth and that healing, because as I know, I think as everybody sitting here knows, when my family starts to take a step, or at least a nod towards seeing and hearing me in a way, we're now shifting a paradigm to create something new. And that is the juice for us, right? That is why we're here. And so, yeah.
It's really beautiful too. I love what you guys are doing as far as creating separate coaches for the individual and the client. Now, when we started Peaks 10 years ago, it was a both and situation. So the individual therapist would work with the individual, build trust, rapport, do the thing, and then call the family. And there was a disconnect there. Right? There's a disconnect for the individual, I'm sure for the therapist, and the integrous relationship they're beginning to build with their client. Sure. But it's kind of a dual relationship. It's really difficult to do that. And I've heard oftentimes just with treatment providers in our field, not doing a lot of this family work, because you need to be resourced to do it. You need to move into it with intention, because if you don't, it can be very complex and be very draining. And so how do you get the families across the bridge, if you will? How do you get them to deal with some of these, we talked about before, relapses, pitfalls, gaps within the recovery process, skinning our knees, these things that are probably pretty synonymous with the recovery process? How do you get them aligned with that, not only for their loved one, but potentially get them engaged with their process? I mean, it's got to be a delicate dance.
It is a delicate dance. I think one of the, and again, back to team focus and back to humans helping humans, I think a massive portion of this for us is it's imperative that we start to build trust on day one, right? And if that trust is real and it's founded in not only our lived experience and our personal lives as people that have gone through our own recovery journey, but in the work as well, and then also working with outstanding people, that, in my experience, surpasses any kind of superficial judgment of whatever that is, right? And again, back to the therapeutic ecosystem, so often families don't understand mental health, right, in many different ways, right? A part of this trust building process for us is education. And it has to be education, and when smart people are educated properly and accordingly to a problem, they typically fall in line with amazing solutions, right? And typically in our experience, that solution involves with the family work, them doing their own work. And the goal, and hopefully what we're in the education, in the trust, we can activate this internal proactive desire for these families to start seeking this out, as opposed to us needing to necessarily push continually for months or whatever, the weeks or months, right? And that work kind of starts to be inborn out of this family. And then we start to see the change. And it's one of my favorite life experiences in this field is when there's any doubt or resistance early on. And me personally, I'm a middle class or lower middle class white kid from Arizona without a PhD, right? So to be in certain rooms with certain very successful and credentialed individuals talking about this, and then weeks and months later, when the change starts to take place, now is it always perfect? No, but we go through our trials and tribulations and we put the work in and we start to create that beauty. And when they really start to see this change, that recognition in us, in our teams of, wow, right? And we start to see that. And that, for me, that brilliance and that kind of these inflection points and that light turning on is really like it's my favorite.
What we do is it requires a tremendous amount of resource, and we're always looking at ways of scaling that, and we're in a big push right now to figure out how do we get more people to access this. I think it's important. Yep. What I believe in is if you're paying a significant amount of money for any type of treatment, especially really expensive treatment, you should be getting the best, and the best should be telling you no. And that's important because we work with families and we work with individuals, we work with businesses, where if I was that person signing that check, I would want that person to say, no, that's not what you're doing. Right. No, go that way. If you're spending a significant amount of money just to be yesed, I think it's not the right fit. You know what I mean? We need more people to say, no, you're wrong. It's okay.
Yeah.
You're still loved, and I'm not shaming you for being wrong. It's just that you're spending time and money on this, and we're spending time and energy, and I'm not going to waste your time or money or my energy on giving you anything except the truth.
That's a big
Yeah.
deal. Being boundaried,
Yeah.
right? And then exposing those edges early and often with the family systems. It actually reminded me of an early part of my career. I'm like 24 years old. I'm 2 years into my career. I'm probably, second year of college, 2 years sober, and I go in and they promote me into a case management position. And they give me my list. And, it's $30,000 a month to be here. There's people paying $1,000 a day.
Sure.
And I'm about to call Dr. Joe.
Sure.
Wow, shoot, man, what am I going to do, Dr. Joe? But actually, I have something that Dr. Joe wants.
Right.
And that is family's craving,
Right.
which is recovery. They just don't know it.
Yep.
And when you introduce them to the set of keys that they have in their hand to access the building of change, hope, and healing, those family systems are like, they're on board, and they're actually just huge advocates. They're like, let's go. Let's keep going in this direction.
Yes.
Because when smart people get great information, they make changes in their lives.
Yes, they do.
That's a beautiful thing. I was actually reminded of that. I'm like, how am I going to call this guy? And it's like, actually, he knows a lot about this thing,
Sure.
but I know quite a bit about this thing.
Right.
And that's why he signed up with us.
Yes.
So I love that. I'm going to remember that too from a leadership perspective and family systems perspective. Sometimes it's okay to say no.
I think that's beautiful, and I think absolutely agree. I think too as well, just as any specific individual that we're working with, right? And I know that you know this and the work that you do. It's central to the work that you do. So often, mental health dysfunction, whatever shape and form that's taking, can feel like drowning, right? It can feel like we're suffocating and we can't breathe. And then so often, at least in my experience, these radical moments in my life, a person saw me and told me to stand up. And then I was no longer drowning, right? And I could break from myself and my subjective experience and exist in presence, right? And just as every individual that we work with has to do that, this family system also has to do that, right? And it may be unpleasant for a very short period of time, but that concept, and more metaphorically speaking, of standing up and existing in presence and existing beyond ourselves and our patterns and our systems and our traumas and whatever, and seeing each other in a new way, it has to happen for these recovery processes to take place. And I don't think that there's enough emphasis and work and time and energy and resources, et cetera, focused on that exchange process. Because for me, as I started to see different members of my family at different stages of my life start to have that experience with me and on their own and start to see them evolve, it allowed me to reorient with them in a different way and potentially expand my relationship with them in certain ways. And I think that that's necessary for the recovery process. And we're often working in these acute bursts, right, and really pivotal times. And so, we're just trying to extract as much as we can within a given time frame. And again, create the sustainable way forward based off of this fundamental learning and courage in truth.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I really love what you guys do. You guys a tagline for your company should be like, we just get curious. We just get super curious.
Yeah.
And I think curiosity is what we're missing in this field right now. Can we get more curious? Can you ask a better question? We were just sitting with Pema White earlier. The way that she's able to frame things for individuals, for them to see the light instead of the darkness is really, really beautiful thing. One of my questions, and for the viewers, I think it's really important, is how long can you guys work with people?
Indefinitely.
Okay.
We can work with people situationally, right? Where our team is brought on for a minimal amount of time, could be days, weeks, months. We have a couple clients that we've worked with for 7 or 8 years.
Okay.
Back when it was just Brandon and I coaching and there was no real organization, there was no organization to it. We didn't have a framework in which we worked. We didn't have an actual business. I founded Reconstruction in 2018. Before that, it was just a bit of a renegade operation. We can work with people. We try not to, we develop pathways for people, but we try not to put a box around it, right? We put scaffolding. We're careful about what we do and how we do it. And I really like the open-endedness of it, where, as you know, recovery is a lifelong thing. Recovery from anything, and it changes and it transitions and it morphs. And I still work with one client myself who we're not working on almost anything obviously recovery related. We're working on, how do I treat my employees? He runs a hedge fund in New York. How do I operate with people that are my equals or senior to me, and what's that experience like for him? And how does he view himself in those situations? And how does he treat his family? And how does he treat? And that's really rewarding work. And I don't get necessarily into the minutia of the business dealings. I know what leadership is, and I know what recovery is. And so being able to blend those things and help a couple people that I still work with privately on those particular issues is a great reward for me, because I got to see them 5, 6, 7 years ago, where it was a very different scene.
That's the thing, and cool. You know them, you know the thing, but you also know them, and you know the genesis of this. I don't want to say new person, but this person, and how they have. We crawled down in the well with you at rock bottom, right? And we walked out with you, and now we're here, and there's certain people that we work with that can walk on and exist in this whatever systems that we've created, and they can and go on and carry on, and that's beautiful and fantastic. There's other people, for me personally, if I could have had the opportunity to have had even a case manager that has known me since day one and that I don't need to talk to every day, but knows me, it doesn't matter what superficial external situation I'm in, that person knows me very intimately. They could probably predict some of the places that my ego or my whatever may take me, right? And not only for the accountability, but just that, again, that bond, because, we send a coach to work with a person that's at rock bottom, and they work, let's say they work for 6 months. You'd be hard pressed to tell me, other than a husband or a child or a wife or a mother or whatever, that coach and that client have a bond that is closer and more more real than virtually any other human being.
Indescribable.
So why wouldn't I would want that? You know what I mean? For an indefinite. It doesn't need to be in a box. It can just be what it is.
A client of mine from 8-10 years ago texted me the other day and said, I need to go back to treatment. And I said, okay, great. So we figured it out. And he said, great, I'm just waiting for the call back from this particular treatment center on the East Coast. I'm sitting in an IHOP. And I said, oh, you're having chocolate chip pancakes with a smiley face of whipped cream on top. And he sent me a picture. He said, how do you know? I said, I know everything about you. I know how many strokes it takes for you to brush your teeth. I know how many steps it takes you to go buy drugs. I know, like all these things that if you live with a person, and we're talking about real change here, like you're really in it with that person, it's unbelievable what you learn about them. And it's unbelievable the levers that you can pull and the positive manipulations you can create in that person's life and the strategy you can implement to create very real change. And the only reason that young man is going back to treatment is because we planted some seeds. Right. It wasn't even all my doing. It's just at some point we got the opportunity to work with him, and I truly believe this particular individual would have probably killed himself if we didn't have the apparatus we had around him.
True, that's huge.
Yeah, it's an awesome experience.
Those relationships, man, now you're speaking to my heart. Like, I was a big 12-stepper early on. I mean, just the sponsor-sponsee relationship. I sit with these guys for 3 months, we'd work steps, and we'd have a intimate relationship.
For sure.
Then you talk about walking with someone 6 months, a year, 5 years, 7 years.
Right.
You guys literally get down, sit next to them. That's what I'm envisioning. It's like you're in their home sitting next to them, brushing their teeth.
Literally that.
Hey man, how you doing today?
Yeah.
We also then work with their cousins, and we work with their uncle, and we work with their auntie. And there's family systems we work with where we've worked with 5, 6, 7 family members on various degrees of, on various different issues, right? There could be the cousin who has incredibly disruptive mental illness, and there could be the cousin or the family member that just needs a little push in the right direction.
Right.
And that's, you're talking about real systemic change, systems-wide change. you get in and manipulate a family system, and it's amazing.
If we can create a more conscious, self-aware individuals and more conscious, as a result, more conscious, self-aware family system, from a dollars and cents perspective, what are we talking about, right? We're talking about investment up front and potentially throughout, ultimately potentially to save fortunes for future generations of family, right? So if it's a dollars and cents issue and we don't, that whatever, you know, again, there's just from the successes that we've had, it's unbelievable to watch.
And I agree with that investment. And it does feel like a heavy lift on the front end.
Sure.
But it's oftentimes like the story of, you know, someone coming to me yesterday and saying, you wake up at 5:30?
Right.
I'm like, yeah, after 8 hours of sleep for sure. And
Right.
what do? I was like, I get up, I drink lemon water, I meditate, and I go run.
Right.
Like, that seemed hard.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, it is difficult to form that routine,
Yes.
but it's a much better investment now than getting cut in half at 60 and they're telling me, hey, we need to put this sin in your heart to treat a symptom of a greater problem that we're not going to help you with.
Right.
Right? And so the same kind of thing in the investment with what you guys do. Like, let's make this investment on the front end
For sure.
so we can begin to heal
Right.
on a very foundational level.
Yes.
And we're not just talking about, and I love what you guys said here, we're not just talking about heroin addiction and mental health issues, and we're talking about quality of life improvements,
Yes, literally,
potentially.
yes.
And that,
Yes.
which is really, really cool.
Discipline, like having the discipline on the front end affords you all sorts of freedoms as things, and it could be the morning routine, it could be your recovery effort. I mean, I am a freak about discipline. Like I love it. Like I wake up at, like you wake up at the same time, do the same thing, and people say, man, that must be really, or you've got a dinner party, oh man, relax, freak. You wake up at 5:30, you know, and they say things like that must be hard, or I could never, or and the point of it is to be hard. Like recovery is hard and good. It should be hard, you know.
Life is hard.
Life is hard. Pain. There's
Yes.
pain and misery and suffering, and that's part of the deal.
Yes.
And to transcend that and to find ways of like accepting that and moving through it and having a relationship with pain and suffering that's prosperous and gentle, even where you know it's happening and you're feeling it, but you're not always responding in this negative way. It's a beautiful thing, and it takes a lot of time and practice.
To your point, when we start to choose, when we get to a place, hopefully, an elevated, free place where I can now choose the pain that I subject myself to,
Special.
there's probably a really nice reward on the other side of whatever pain I'm putting myself through, right? Whereas before, there was no rewards, right? And again, back to this kind of math, right? Any intelligent person can see that, right? If we've experienced 1 second of freedom and presence, we can understand. If you've ever sat in a cold plunge for 4 minutes, you know how amazing it is on the other side of that cold plunge, right? Does it suck for a minute while your body is acclimating? For sure.
Yeah.
10, 12 years into cold plunges, it's still brutal the first minute, right? But then it's freedom in a new way. And so holding space for people to fight that, to resist that, to begrudgingly accept that, to accept that compassionately, and to start to love themselves and others through that process, you know, that's different.
Yeah. I really love that methodology too, because it leans into kind of where I got my start in recovery in a much less trauma-informed way.
Right.
But as we had talked about a little bit, a lot of the treatment stuff going on 15, 20 years ago was like, sit down, shut up, do your thing.
Right.
Well, shit, this is hard.
Yes.
Well, life's hard.
Right.
And there's a way, you guys are doing it in this much more trauma-informed and empathetic way.
Sure.
But really, let's not shy away from the truth,
Right.
which is like, this can be a difficult process.
Yeah.
You ready to do that? And we're clear as kind in that, as Brene Brown would say. And so I love that. There's a piece to getting back to that little bit of rough and toughness because you have to have a little bit of grit to walk through this process. And people that are calling you guys or calling Peaks Recovery, it's about as much courage as anybody could ever muster on planet Earth to pick up that phone. So I know they're ready for that process. We just have to introduce it in an honest way.
Sure.
And I found myself actually shying away from a little bit of that toughness. But you guys have brought it up today in a really cool way. You can still integrate that.
You can do both. We're not like a bunch of pirates and Vikings, like, this is hard, you're gonna mess up and fail. It's just that it's the truth. Like there's a toughness about it, and we talk about resilience, and the wellness industry talks about resilience, and the recovery industry talks about resilience, and the mental health industries and the psychiatric industries, right? And to experience that, you need to experience it. Like you need to feel what it's like to be uncomfortable and walk through it, and you need to, hopefully, like Brandon said, have the luxury almost of putting yourself into these uncomfortable situations to see how you perform or see what experience or knowledge comes through that. And it's, yeah, a little bit of toughness is a nice thing, you know, while still being, you can do both. You can be gentle and tough, I think, and it takes practice, but you can do both.
And I think what you're speaking to, absolutely, and I think what you're speaking to is, in my early days, it was, shut up and sit down. We're tough, you're not tough yet. Yeah. After you stay around here for a very extended period of time and do everything that we tell you to do without any ounce of a fight, you can then call yourself tough. The first person that resonated with me was like, oh, miss all of that. You're tough right now. Let's go.
Yeah.
Back to this drowning. You stand up, right? Like, I'll drown with you. Stand up. Let's go, right? And it's the empowerment of that is so important. And back to our personal experiences, we both had that. We both were so fortunate and grateful enough to have a person or a couple people or a group tell us, hey, it's you. The power is in you, right? You just can't see it, or you're not connecting to it, or people have told you your whole life that you don't have any, but you do, and I'll be the one to tell you that, because people told me that I didn't either, but I do now, right? And that was a decision, a courageous, truth-based decision that I had to confront, and that scared the shit out of me. But when I made that decision, it's here, and it's real now. And so a lot of our work is also founded in that. When we're talking about this brand of toughness or discipline, it's because that's innate within the people that we're working with, right? We just want to clear the wreckage out of the way enough so that they can start to experience that and then harness it, right? Yeah. And then take it to others and do that for them.
Yeah, that's a really cool deal. And just the intricacies of how you meet with individuals and begin to explore who and what they are. And I said it multiple times, just being very, very curious is something that I'm really attracted to and that the viewers should be looking for when they're out searching for places for their loved ones. Ask good questions. Ask a million questions. If you ever get on the phone and they're like, you shouldn't ask questions because I'm an expert, hang up the phone. You know?
Literally.
It's really, really cool to see opportunities like this and the viewers. I have never heard of a company like your guys'.
Thank you.
And I've been doing this 15 years.
We feel the same.
Yeah, thank you so much. Is there anything as far as the viewers here, Colorado, nationwide, I think they need to know that you're international, but website, where's your offices? How do they get a hold of you?
I've got a really long URL called reconstructionunlimited.com. We're on Instagram and all that stuff. I think what I always tell everyone is just pick up the phone and call, and that's easier said than done, but I really mean it. If you pick up, regardless of what kind of resource you have or what you think you want to do or you don't want to do, we work in an incredibly customizable way, and our method is based on the intricacies of that complexity. And so just chat to us. Like we don't even bill for all that. It's, you know, we interface with our clients from day one, and we don't charge anyone a dime until we have a plan to execute.
Oh, wow.
We do all of our assessments for free. We do a lot of conversations for free. We'll meet with people in person for free because what we do is so comprehensive that I just believe, is my belief, that stuff should be on the house, and you shouldn't really pay for anything until you have an actionable plan. Now listen, that plan can change and it can morph into different things. And you know, sometimes especially with crisis situations, which we deal with on a pretty regular basis, first contact with that client, with that patient, with that person, that human, things change, right? And you have to pivot and you have to be adaptable. But I believe giving someone a plan or some resource is the least we can do before sending them a bill. So for anyone listening, just go to our website. There's a number there, call that number. You talk to any one of us and we'll try to find you help.
Absolutely. I think too, the last thing I'll say about that is there are many, when we're assessing clientele and family systems, et cetera, businesses, there are many people that, I call it like the rehab industrial complex, right? There's like this machine of recovery, for mental health. And that can be such a daunting landscape to even try and understand and communicate with. We're probably also communicating with this complex at times of crisis and need and vulnerability. It can also be very expensive. And so there are many people that, and I think again it speaks to us and the work that we've done in our over these years, where there are many people that don't necessarily need the full gauntlet of 7 months in it, right? We can tackle this in a much more efficient and quick way through kind of other interventions that don't require a full overhaul of everything and upending a person's entire life. And so just as much as we're, working efficiently, we want to work with kind of best practices in mind in that way as well. And keep whatever program and systems we're creating efficient in the true sense of what that word is, right? And so that's what I'd say about that.
Really appreciate you guys coming on today. It's been an absolute pleasure having you guys on the show.
Thank you.
Reconstruction Unlimited, find that. And you know what? I would encourage people, to their point, to give them a shout. Free consultation. One of the worst things that ever happened to me and people that I care about the most is starting to call 800 numbers in treatment programs, and before you know it, you're on a plane to nowhere.
Yes.
And I can speak about that with a whole heart. I've had family members that are impacted. I've been impacted. So I would encourage everybody to call a valuable resource like Reconstruction Unlimited. Thank you guys so much for coming on
Chris.
the show.
It's been a pleasure,
Appreciate you guys.
Thanks, dude.
All right, guys, please check us out on where you get your podcast: Instagram, Facebook, you name it, iTunes, Spotify. We got it going on. Until next time, peace.